So it's been quite a while since I've taken to task the gaming journalists of the world. I like to throw them in videos, of course, to kind of knock them down a couple. But Kotaku, this is a shocker, I'm sure. Kotaku has embarrassed themselves yet again. For some reason, this site still is being allowed to exist, not in the sense of cancelization, but this site is just so bad, and they've done so many things to really just upset everybody. And we've talked about this in the past of people that have woken up way too late, other gaming journalists that honestly, frankly, were afraid to, I think, call Kotaku out for their BS. And then finally, over the last couple of years, Kotaku has just kind of always done something. And then all of a sudden you have these people waking up and saying, man, I tried to defend you, but no more, after you did this. And it's like, all right, I guess better late than never. But ultimately, there's so many people that let Kotaku get away with it that are just, I don't know, in bed with them. Obviously, all these game journalists, to an extent, stick together. I've said that before, hive mind. They all basically are the same person. So this, again, should not come as a shock to you that Kotaku has done something incredibly stupid yet again. So let's kind of summarize it, and let's start from the beginning. This is a little while old, but I wanted to see the saga play out before I, threw my hat in, because ultimately it had a really interesting conclusion, whereas the beginning was something I was thinking of covering, but then it got more spicy as it went on. So what basically started, we know Kotaku has been blacklisted from a lot of gaming publishers. A lot of gaming publishers have said, we're done. You're not going to events anymore. You're not doing these previews. We're not giving you review codes. It's happened a lot. Now, Nintendo is the focus here. This is the story that we're doing, but this has been happening quite a bit. I think Square Enix for like Final Fantasy, there's a Kotaku writer that had talked about like, oh, we're not covering Final Fantasy. We never got to go because they did this. Think Resident Evil 4, maybe, so Capcom. It's becoming a thing, and it's great. I mean, this is exactly what needs to happen, is these publishers saying, no, number one, your site's dying. Number two, nobody reads it. So why are we going to let you, when we could allow other people, maybe content creators, maybe just other sites, they get more traffic? Why would we allow you just based off of your name and your legacy? It makes literally 0 sense. So that's one thing we've seen. Now for this, we have Nintendo with Zelda, right? So we had this first wave of a writer at Kotaku being very, very upset, again, being pretty salty, I'd say, online, of all the previews for Zelda are out, and, as usual, we don't have ours because Nintendo has blacklisted us. So we'd like to do a preview of Zelda, but, dang them like they did. Now, let me throw one other thing in before we kind of get too far. I'm not even a big fan of how Nintendo handles relations. Nintendo is notoriously kind of awful with, like, copyright, and, you've probably seen stuff online of, well, back even before 2017, you literally couldn't upload gameplay of Nintendo games without getting, a copyright claim. So they are very old age. I guess they are what they are, and they make great games. They make games that sell like 20 million each, but they're not great. But with that being said, there's certain things you just can't do. So that's one thing just to kind of keep in your head. So they weren't allowed to do the Zelda thing. They complained about it. But here's the thing. Kotaku has actually numerous times, maybe not with Nintendo, but just in general, they have talked about, published articles, but also pushed the idea for people to pirate and steal games. They've done this not just Nintendo. Maybe it's the first time they've ever done it with Nintendo, and they did it, I think, a few weeks or a few months back, but they'll post articles talking about, emulating and pirating and stuff, and then they'll promote the idea and say, here's how you do it, go do it. And it's like, and look, whether you want to do it or not do it, that's a you decision. Know the ramifications of it, whether you do or don't, but it's a very personal thing, and I'm sure you could go on YouTube and find people that talk about how to do it, but like when you want to be taken seriously as like a journalistic integrity, when you want to have that journalistic integrity and you want to be a website, you can't do that. Like that's probably how it is. Like when this was happening with Kotaku, as I remember it, and they were, pushing that idea, there were a lot of people defending them where it's like, well, other people do it, and, it's not that big of a deal, and ultimately it's on the person who does it, it's on them. That is true, but again, like, if you want to be where Kotaku was, or is, but I really think, let's go in the past when they were respectable. If you want to be that, there's certain rules you have to play by. It's kind of why I brought in, Nintendo sketchy past, and, I wouldn't blame you if you had something against Nintendo. Maybe they've wronged you through the YouTube copyright system, right? They're not great in that sense. So you can have a bone to pick with them, and you may want to suggest things, but you also got to know your place, and that's not like a demeaning thing. It's if you want preview access, like it's literally that. If you want them to talk to you, because these companies, you say one thing out of line, it's how it works. You're out, especially if you do something like this. If you're a big gaming website and you say, hey, we're just going to kind of like give people a step-by-step instruction guide here, well, you expect to get previews from them? It's just not going to happen. And that's okay. You can lean into that. And you can say, hey, this isn't that big of a deal, and Nintendo is these words for like doing this to us, and we don't have any interest. We don't want to work with them. We don't want to go to their preview events. That would be the way to look at it if you wanted to lean into that. But instead, you want to play both. You want to be able to publish these kind of riskier articles, and then you want to complain when Nintendo blacklists. You cannot do both of them, especially when you're that big. Kotaku is still big in the grand scheme of things, right? It's not like some small 20K YouTuber, right? Like, they're legit. You can't do it. So that was phase one. That's actually where the story ended for a little while, and I was considering, you look at the time, that would have made a pretty okay video. However, afterwards, we had one step. I laugh because it's so ridiculous. So now we have a senior writer of Kotaku, and granted, he did take this post down, but the thing is, he posted it, and then people saw it, and then people reacted, and he privated his tweets, he blocked a whole bunch of people, and then he took it down. So he did take it down, but there were some steps before it. So let me just show you the post and the picture, and you can kind of judge it for yourself. Okay, so you tell me in the comments how you feel about that. Without going too far into that, I kind of want to take a few steps back to just look at like the journalistic integrity and stuff. It is hilarious to me, and I've seen people comment this on Twitter. So these are the people that will compare people to, and I'm like, you got to be very careful of words you say, right? On YouTube, even like historical bad figures in history and stuff. You got to be careful of the words you use. So when you play Hogwarts Legacy, to a good amount of GameSpot and Kotaku and Polygon and The Gamer and PC Gamer, you could keep going, but Kotaku is a big one. If you play this, or if you say this about a game, or if you criticize a game, you are considered these people. Meanwhile, we have this. Meanwhile, we have this post. This is where my blood starts to boil. This is why I don't do these videos too often, because this is the hypocrisy that we see over. And now this is a huge example. This is one that pretty much everybody, including other people in the gaming industry, look and say, bad take, wrong take, right? Now, again, people that are waking up because of this post have a lot of learning to do about the history of Kotaku, right? They are way behind, and really, I don't respect them all that much, because it's like you should have woken up quite a while ago. You were out there promoting them like 2-3 months ago, or you defended them for the PS5 review, where it became a presidential debate, kind of article. The people that defended them for that, but then kind of turned their backs later on, I really don't have respect for those, right? But that's the thing to me, is this hypocritical gamers or this thing. One thing that Kotaku I used to really go at them for, and this is another example of it, is, and it's not even just Kotaku, it's really the gaming industry. We are told as gamers about how polite, and again, this is a huge example of the opposite, right? We're told about how polite we need to be, and that, if you have any criticisms, like, you got to be really careful about how you say them, how you word them, who you direct them to, which, and to an extent, I agree with that, right? Like, if you're mad about a certain thing, well, maybe it was an executive that made that choice. Going after a small-time developer is probably not the right move, right? So there is some truth in it, but as game journalists do, they take it and they make it like 1,000 times worse than it needs to be. But again, these are the same groups of people that they'll call us names, even though we're supposed to be nice to each other. They'll call us names if we say or do something out of line. But then also, we're told time and time again that we need to respect the industry, and we need to be better people, and we need to be nicer. And then we can't say certain things, but then this person is comparing. Look at the picture. Look at what they're comparing Nintendo. So they're literally going after not yes, they can maybe say, well, we're going after the corporation of Nintendo. You're going after people. You're going after the person that put you on that blacklist. You're going after Nintendo PR. You're going after, like, that's what you're going after. Those are human beings. I thought we were told that you can't do that. Now, I think there's a line of what you can and can't, say or do to these kind of people, but obviously this isn't crossing a line, but playing a video game, playing Hogwarts Legacy, you are the worst thing on planet Earth. But this person, the senior writer, a senior writer, maybe not a senior writer at Kotaku, gets to do this. Now, he took it down, he privated his account, he still works there, doesn't he? Now, I'm not a big fan of canceling people, but I do believe in, I guess, consistency. I want to say like accountability, but accountability has become such a thing with, cancel culture and all that stuff. But be consistent. So if somebody else did this, if a YouTuber did this, would there be a call for them to be, completely cut off from the rest of the industry? Things like that. Would that happen? I think the answer is yes. I think if you're outside of the gaming journalists, okay, and you do something like this, I think you're done. I think they turn their back on you, and you're finished. But then if somebody within the industry does it, well, they're a protected group, so they're completely cool. This is how it works. And people are going after, like, the race. Another negative of him being white. So, like, it's bad. Him making that analogy, the comparison, is bad simply because he's white. Again, I also think kind of missing the greater message, you fools. I can't even believe that's an argument there. It's like, oh, you're speaking. I actually saw, I won't say names because I do know who I'm thinking of here. I saw somebody say, one of the things that shocks me so much about this post is he's white. So, like, he really has no room to talk. It's like, Jesus Christ, can we, number one, please stop that? But number two, that's not even the freaking point here. The point is the hypocrisy. The point is it not being a flat, like, everybody's treated equally. But we know that. Like, we've been saying that for so long. So, as it, and this is the thing, this will be my final, send-off for this video. As is the stuff that Kotaku does, right? What ends up coming out of it normally is people laugh, people will make fun of, people will shame these Kotaku people. And again, Kotaku is a garbage website run by garbage people, and also garbage people work on it largely. I really don't know how many good people, I'm sure there are some good people, but a lot of them really aren't very good, these Kotaku people. So yes, that is always, I think, the response to these things. When they write the PS5 review, of course, there is, I think, a pretty well-balanced response back to them saying, this is insane. You guys are so dumb. We do have that. But then normally what happens is kind of like a forgive and forget thing. And also, in my opinion, like the biggest thing that I always get frustrated with really comes down to the supporters. The gaming industry is big. The gaming journalist industry is big. They're all together. They all roughly think the exact same way. Otherwise, you don't really get it. We've heard stories from countless people over the decades about being kind of blacklisted within your own company, kind of being pushed away because you have an opposing view. Like, this isn't new. This isn't surprising. But that's what always upsets me is, yeah, we shame them, but what about all these other game journalists that are fully in support of them or take too long to switch and turn around? Like, what about them? Why do they get a free pass? Now, again, I'm not saying cancel them, but I'm saying, why don't we push a little bit? Why don't we say, hey, do you not see this stuff? Like, you let them get away with it all the time. And then when we see other people, even if it's not these Kotaku people, right? So the literal person that did this post, okay? Not necessarily him, but if any other game journalist, and then you just connect the dots. Do they follow Kotaku? Do they follow him? Did they like his tweet? Have they talked to him? Are they friends? Do they think the exact same way? When that person tells you that you're an evil person for playing Hogwarts Legacy, why can't we reverse the cards on them and say, boy, well, I mean, these game journalists, you guys are all brothers in arms, you're all together. Well, let's reconnect the dots backwards. And didn't your friend do this for Kotaku? And like, why can't we do that? And we're not there yet. I mean, just simply, we have not done that yet. I'm not like demanding that it happens, but I don't really take people seriously in the industry unless they, if they don't do that when it's clear as day. So yes, it's just another Kotaku like idiot thing, but the ramification, like there needs to be some beyond just shaming Kotaku, because it's not just, some people are just better at hiding it. We've talked about IGN and Polygon and all this stuff. There's some really good people too, very good people. I read some websites. I've talked to a couple people that work at some of these sites, and I like smaller ones, not like the big ones, and like I like them, but largely, again, you look at the Polygons and the PC Gamers and The Gamer, they're all the exact same, firstly. And secondly, they all are run, or people that work for them, they all think and they all act the exact same. So when one does it, they are all, I'm not saying, like, well, I guess I'm not saying when one person does it, immediately everybody else did the exact same thing. But when you have people that defend each other kind of quietly, people got to be, I think, a little bit better at kind of spotting it and being able to hold these people under the fire, because there's more than just Kotaku that's messing up. There are. I think we've done our job of destroying Kotaku and it being a joke website, and now even gaming publishers agreeing and saying, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. That is a huge success. But Kotaku is not. Kotaku is just the most outwardly like annoying and stupid, but it's also because they're dying. Like, they are so close to death that, and when you are close to death, like on the internet, when you are these things, you make big deals. You make rage baiting headlines. That's all they do. They only know how to cause divisiveness. They only know how to make people upset. That's why they put a thing of Trump versus Biden in their PS5 review. You think that would, I think part of that is because that person was clinically insane that wrote it. But I also think that they're looking for clicks, because who's going to Kotaku to read a PS5 review? Who? Who in God's name is going to do that? Not, and if there are people, it's a couple thousand. It's not these hundreds of thousands or millions that you need to keep a website going. They've lost all that. So when a site gets desperate and they're dying, well, actually, it's in reverse, right? So when a site is dying, what do? They get desperate. And that's what we've seen Kotaku. But there's others that are, I would say, almost equally as bad. They're just not in the same dying phase. So we haven't seen them act as stupid, really, as Kotaku has. So there you go. I felt that feels good. I can't do too many of these videos, though. That's why I've largely pulled back, and it's on the second channel. But let me know, as always, what you think. I'm always up for doing more of them, but I got to take them, here and there. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.